Hello friends, welcome to Net Chemistry. We were discussing about GSI main examination, repeated question with the solutions we were seeing. If you are seeing the previous year question paper, you can find out a section analytical chemistry. In that, many analytical instruments, sophisticated instruments, related problems you can find out. Mainly you will be getting the question about UV visible spectrophotometer, HPLC and GCMS, ICP-MS. Today we will see how these analytical instruments are working, not so much into the deep on the examination point of view. Okay, whatever the question they are going to ask, what are the possibilities to get the questions, all those things we will analyze today. First one I am going to tell about UV visible spectrometer. Shall we start? First we will see how the UV visible spectrometer will work. First one is UV visible spectrometer. What all are the application of UV visible spectrometer? How a UV visible spectrometer is working? Before starting into what is the range of UV visible light, that you should know. What is the range of UV visible light? UV is ultraviolet is in the range of 200 to 400 nanometer, right? Ultraviolet will be in 200 to 400 and the visible light will be in the range of 400 to 800 nanometer, right? This is the range of UV visible spectrometer. So, within this light range, whatever samples will give you the spectrum can be analyzed with this instrument. This is the application of this instrument. Whichever sample will give the spectrum in this range, this nanometer range, this light range, that samples we can analyze using UV visible spectrometer. Now, what is the principle of a UV visible spectrometer? We know, right? Beer-Lambert's law, right? Based on this theory only, this is the working principle of a UV visible spectrometer. Beer-Lambert's law. What is this law states? This law states that absorbance of a sample, is directly proportional to the concentration of the sample into length of that sample cell. Absorbance is directly proportional to, not is equal to. Absorbance will be directly proportional to concentration and length of the sample cell. This is what Beer-Lambert's law. Okay. So, A proportional to concentration and length of the sample cell we have got. So, A is equal to epsilon Cl. Okay. What is epsilon now? Absorptivity coefficient we will say, or else molar extinction coefficient. What is epsilon? Epsilon is molar. This is what epsilon. Now, the question is, if you are seeing the working principle of UV visible spectrometer was a question, Beer-Lambert's law, based on the Beer-Lambert's law only, UV visible spectrometer is operating. What Beer-Lambert's law states that absorbance of the light is directly proportional to, absorbance by a sample is directly proportional to the concentration of that sample and the length of the sample cell which we are keeping the sample. Okay. So, absorbance is, we got a constant here, epsilon Cl. What is epsilon now? Epsilon is molar extinction coefficient or molar absorptivity coefficient. Okay. So, the other question is, what is molar extinction coefficient? If you see the question paper, you can see this question, what is epsilon? What is molar extinction coefficient and what is the unit of that epsilon? So, we will see what is epsilon and what is the unit of epsilon. What do you mean by a molar extinction coefficient? What is the definition of this constant? So, what is absorbance from Beer-Lambert's law? Absorbance is directly proportional to concentration and length. So, here only we are getting the constant epsilon into C into L. Now, what we have to find out? Epsilon we have to find out. So, epsilon is equal to absorbance divided by concentration into length, right? So, what is epsilon now? And unit, how to find out the unit of an epsilon? What is the unit of epsilon? This is the two important question. What do you mean by epsilon and what is the unit of epsilon? We will find out the unit of epsilon first. Absorbance is having unit? No. Absorbance is not having unit. No unit for absorbance. What is the SI unit of concentration? Concentration is mole into liter raised to minus 1, right? Mole per liter is concentration. And what is the unit of length? SI unit of length is centimeter, right? SI unit of length is centimeter, concentration is mole per liter, and absorbance is not having unit. So we will substitute in this equation. Absorbance is not having the unit, concentration is having the unit mole liter raised to minus 1, mole per liter, and length is having the unit centimeter, right? So what will be the unit of epsilon? Epsilon, unit of epsilon, if you are taking above, mole raised to minus 1, liter, centimeter raised to minus 1. This is what the unit of epsilon. So what is epsilon now? The unit we got, mole raised to minus 1, liter, centimeter raised to minus 1 is the unit of epsilon. From this equation only you are finding out the unit. Now what is molar extinction coefficient? If you see, molar extinction coefficient is the absorbance of light per unit length of the sample cell, per unit length of the sample, per unit concentration, per unit mass concentration. What is epsilon? Epsilon is the absorbance of light per unit length and unit mass of concentration. That is what molar extinction coefficient. Okay, clear? These all are the questions you will be getting from UV visible spectrum. The range of UV visible spectrometer is 200 to 800 nanometer. Whichever the sample will give you the spectrum in that range, that can be analyzed using UV visible spectrometer. This UV visible spectrometer is based on Beer-Lambert's law, and you know the law states that absorbance is directly proportional to the concentration and length of the sample cell. From that equation only you have to find out the value of epsilon and unit of epsilon. What is epsilon? Okay, clear? Now we will see one more question you can find out. If a UV spectrum is showing a negative absorbance, what is it indicate? If it is a negative absorbance, if you are taking the peak, time against the intensity of the light absorbed, you will be getting the concentration. If your spectrum is going like this, if you are getting a negative peak, here if you are getting a negative peak, what is it indicates? This negative peak indicates how you will be interpret the negative peak in a UV visible spectrometer. We will see what is this negative peak indicates. See, if you are seeing a UV visible spectrometer, if you are analyzing sample in it, 2 cuvette will be there. What? Cuvette. 2 cuvette will be there in the spectrometer. We are keeping the sample in 1 cuvette. It is like a glass, like this one glass vessel, small cuvette. In this 2 will be there. One we will be keeping the blank and the other we will be keeping the sample. Okay, blank and sample. Always we will keep with the blank as reference. What is blank? Without sample. Okay, we will be processing the sample in some particular solvents. Only that solvent we will keep as the blank. This is our sample analyzing. So what will be happening? The intensity of the light absorbed by the blank and intensity of the light absorbed by the sample. This is what we are going to refer. Actually blank always we will keep as auto 0, and how much the sample light will be absorbing. Based on that only, intensity of the light absorbing, based on that only we are going to find out the concentration of the sample. When we are getting a negative peak, it indicates that the intensity of the light passing through the sample will be more than that of passing through the blank. Okay, the intensity of the light passing through the sample will be more. What is this negative peak indicate? The intensity of the light passing through the sample will be more than that of the blank. This is what the negative peak indicates. If you are seeing the question paper, you can find this question. Okay, clear? This is what all about UV visible spectrometer. You should know only this much about UV visible analysis. This is the way it is working. Now coming to the HPLC. What is HPLC? High performance liquid chromatography. It is liquid chromatography. Okay, we know the chromatographic technique. What is the chromatographic technique? What it is used for? It is used for the if we are getting a mixture of components, we are using it for the separation of those components. Individual component separation only we are using this chromatographic technique generally. So liquid chromatography is there, gas chromatography is there. What is the main difference between liquid chromatography and gas chromatography? In liquid chromatography, the mobile phase will be a liquid, and in gas chromatography the mobile phase will be a gas. This is the main difference between liquid chromatography and gas chromatography. First we will see what is an HPLC. Okay, high performance liquid chromatography. Our mobile phase is a liquid here. Both gas chromatography and liquid chromatography is the chromatographic technique is used for the separation of the components from a mixture which cannot be separated by any other methods. That is what chromatographic techniques. First we will see HPLC. First I will tell what all are the parts of an HPLC. If you see, HPLC first is having a mobile phase. What it is? Mobile phase. Mobile phase, here we are using the liquids, solvents we are using. What will happen? This mobile phase will be passing through a wire, through the small tubes we can say. Through this tube it will be entering into a pump. What it is? Mobile phase is passing into the pump. Okay, from this pump, this mobile phase will come to the pump. What will happen? The pump will connected to an injector. Okay, this is what? Injector. Here we will be sample, we will be injecting here. Sample we will be preparing, we will be extracting those samples and we were injecting here. This mobile phase will be pumping towards this injector. Along with this injector will pick the sample. What will happen? This will go to a column compartment will be there. That is what? Stationary phase. Okay, mobile phase and stationary phase. This stationary phase, what will happen? Once this sample along with the mobile phase will enter, this will be, stationary phase will be capturing. It will be holding the particular components based on the retention time. Okay, on particular retention time, based on that one compound will be eluting. We will say eluting. Then what will happen? This will be connected to the detector. This is your mobile phase. Okay, in a tray we are keeping the mobile phase. Here it will be detector will be there, and in this detector it will be getting detected what the sample has collected as per the wavelength and particular retention time. Retention time and particular wavelength we will be getting a spectrum where it will be monitoring, and when monitor will be connected to this instrument. One system. Okay. In this system, it will be, we can monitor the samples separated and we can analyze the sample. This is the part of an HPLC. Mobile phase will be there, pump will be there, injector where it is sample is injecting. Then there will be a stationary phase there, that is what? Column compartment we will say. Column will be the stationary phase. Packed columns will be there. There we will be getting the samples will be getting eluted at a particular retention time. Based on that wavelength of the each samples wavelength, the detector will detect your samples. This is what a typical HPLC instrument. Now we will see two types of HPLC, two type of liquid chromatographic techniques are there. One we will call as normal phase and reverse phase. We will see what is the difference between normal phase chromatography and what reverse phase chromatography. First we will see what is a normal phase. If you see here, it is a mobile phase is there, here it is a stationary phase is there. Mobile phase is the solvents, that is what? Liquid. In a bottle we are keeping the liquid, different solvents as mobile phase, and stationary phase will be a packed column. Column will be there. Like this one column, different materials have packed like this. Okay, it is closely packed column. If your sample is passing through this, depends on that molecular size, retention time, wavelength, this particle will be getting stuck in that column. That is the way it is analyzing. So normal phase chromatography, what is mobile phase, what is stationary phase, based on that only these two type of chromatography. If you are seeing a normal phase chromatography, your mobile phase will be non-polar solvents. Mobile phase used in normal phase chromatography is non-polar solvents. Example, if you see hexane, normal hexane, cyclohexane, all those things, non-polar solvents, non-polar organic solvents we are using as mobile phase here. But if you see in reverse phase chromatography, mobile phase will be polar solvents. What all are the polar solvents? For example, water you can use as mobile phase, acetonitrile you can use as a mobile phase, methanol you can use. All these polar solvents you will be using as a mobile phase here. Now coming to the stationary phase. What stationary phase you are using in normal phase chromatography? It is polar stationary phase we will be using. The column which is packed with polar compounds, that will be the stationary phase in normal phase chromatography. For example, silica packed columns, okay, silica columns packed with the silica. This is a polar stationary phase, okay. But coming to the reverse phase chromatography, stationary phase used is non-polar compounds, okay. Column packed with non-polar compounds, stationary phase in reverse phase chromatography. For example, C8 column, carbon 8 chain, alkane chains, C8 chains, or else C18 columns. These all are the carbon chains. It is not polar, non-polar compounds you are using in a stationary phase in reverse phase chromatography. This is the main difference between normal phase and reverse phase chromatography. Mobile phase, here it will be a non-polar, but here it is a polar solvents we will use. And here stationary phase, polar stationary phase like silica packing material we are using in the column. But here reverse phase chromatography, if you see, non-polar packing material like carbon chains, C8 chain, C18 chain, like that packing materials you are using. Now coming to the sample analysis, normal phase chromatography is used for what type of samples we are analyzing by normal phase chromatography, and what type of which samples we will be analyzing by reverse phase chromatography. You only think if it is a non-polar solvents, what type of compounds can be analyzed by this? Mobile phase is passing to the pump and then injector will inject the sample. Mobile phase plus sample will be dissolving and going into the stationary phase, right? So mobile phase and sample will be miscible. It has to mix together and form a single phase, then it is going to the stationary phase. If your solvents are non-polar solvents, your analyte also a non-polar analyte, right? Sample or analyte. So, non-polar compounds can be, if you want to analyze any non-polar compounds, then only you have to use a normal phase chromatography. Clear? Non-polar solvents, non-polar compounds only mix in the, it will be miscible in this non-polar solvents. So, better you can analyze non-polar compounds by normal phase chromatography. If it is a non-polar compound is passing through a polar stationary phase, what will happen? It will stuck. It will not pass easily. It will be stucking in the polar stationary phase. So reverse phase, what type of compounds we can analyze? Our analyte will be, we can analyze So in reverse phase chromatography, we are analyzing polar compounds. Polar solvents are, our mobile phase is polar solvents. So polar compounds only we can analyze by reverse phase chromatography. Clear? Mobile phase and stationary phase we are changing based on our analysis requirement. What type of analyte you are going to analyze, based on that only we have to choose normal phase and reverse phase. If your analyte is a non-polar compound, so your mobile phase also should be non-polar. In reverse phase chromatography, polar solvents will be the mobile phase like water, methanol, acetonitrile, etc. Stationary phase will be non-polar compounds, carbon 18 chains. Then analyte will be polar compounds. We are analyzing polar compounds, aldehydes, phenols. Like this analyte will be, we are getting such type of analyte, we can use this reverse phase chromatography. Okay, two type of chromatographic techniques in HPLC. Then coming to the detectors. Next part is detectors. What all are the detectors we are using in an HPLC instrument? We will see. You can use HPLC instrument. This detector you can change and use PDA detector. You can use PDA means photodiode array detector, or you can use UV visible spectrum, UV visible detector you can use, or else you can use RID refractive index detector, or you can use FLD fluorescence detector, or else you can use MS. This many detectors, one liquid chromatography you can combine with this many detectors. In this, out of this, PDA and UV visible detector, first we will see what is PDA detector and what is UV visible detector. These both detectors, PDA and UV visible detector, these both are absorbance detector. We will say absorbance detector. This working principle is based on the absorbance. What we have seen in UV visible spectrometer, what is the principle? The same absorbance principle only in it is associated with HPLC also. The same detector principle only we are using. PDA and photodiode array and UV visibles are absorbance spectrometer, absorbance detectors. See here detector is there. From detector only connected to your instrument, your computer. Here it is the monitor. Okay. So this part detector only giving you the sample, what is the concentration of the sample. These both are absorbance detectors. If you are seeing a PDA detector and UV visible detector, this is based on a lambda value, particular lambda value where sample will be getting analyzed. Injecting some set of samples. If it is a mixture of aldehydes you are injecting, at a particular retention time it will be eluting. Different components will be eluting. The detector will detect based on the wavelength of that sample. This will be detecting, and you will be getting a graph, intensity of the light absorbed, time and wavelength. Based on that only you are calculating your concentration of the analyte. Okay, clear? This is what PDA and UV visible detector. And coming to the RID. What is an RID detector? This is based on the refractive index of the light. If it is passing through a plain mobile phase, your light will be going like this, and if it is entering into the sample, your light will be deviating, right? That bending will happen. That is what a refractive index of the light. Based on that only RID detectors are working. What will happen in RID detector? You will be having a reference cell and a sample cell. Okay, two cells will be there. One is reference cell and other will be the sample cell. Reference cell, what will happen? Only mobile phase will be going into the reference cell. In sample cell, what will happen? Mobile phase plus sample will enter. Of course, if it is a mobile phase alone going and your light is continuously passing through that, there is no refractive index. Once sample, your mixture is entering into that, then only refractive index. That variation you are studying, based on that only you are analyzing your analyte. So two sample cells will be there. One is the reference cell, one is the sample cell. Reference cell only mobile phase will enter. Sample cell mobile phase plus sample will be entering. Based on that refractive index difference only you are finding out you are analyzing your sample. And then coming to the fluorescence detector, the name itself, it is based on the fluorescence. The same way mobile phase along, only mobile phase is entering, there is no fluorescence. If it is sample is entering along with that, that is based on the fluorescence. The light is getting fluorescence. The process is based on the fluorescence, the fluorescence detector. Next it is coming to the MS. What is MS? Mass spectrum. This we know, right? Mass spectrum. Based on mass spectrum. Based on your M by Z value. M by Z value, you will be analyzing your sample based on that mass of that component present. Okay. How it will be? You will be getting a spectrum, mass spectrum. Mass spectrum will be like this. M by Z against absorbance, relative absorbance will be there in this graph. So you will be having a base peak will be there, right? One base peak will be there. So I am saying 43 base peak, and M plus peak will be there, molecular ion peak will be there, and McLafferty rearrangement peak. There are many peaks will be there, right? This we have studied the theory, right? Mass spectrum. This is the way one mass spectrum you are going to get. Analyzing this mass spectrum, parent ion will be fragmented into homolytic cleavage and heterolytic cleavage, right? Those parent ion will be separated into the ions, positive ions, and based on that M by Z value, we will be getting a spectrum. In that spectrum, each spectrum is a qualitative property of a particular compound, right? If it is having a parent ion is having a particular mass, say M by Z is 149 for a compound, and that will be giving mass. Molecular ion peak you will be getting, McLafferty rearrangement you will be getting, base peak will be there. There is so many peaks. Based on that mass spectrum data, you are analyzing your compound. This is the sample, this is the compound present in that mixture. You can find out, and you can find out the concentration. Okay, clear? These all are the detectors in an HPLC instrument. Now we will see what is a gas chromatographic technique. Okay, gas chromatographic techniques, GC. What is a gas chromatographic technique? As I said, in liquid chromatography you are using the mobile phase as liquid. Here you are using gas, nitrogen, nitrogen, helium, argon, all those gas you are using as a mobile phase, and your stationary phase will be a packed column, as same as what you have seen in a packed column. Packing material will be there inside the column. That column compartment has attached your mobile phase. Instead of a solvent bottle, it has attached to the gas cylinders. Okay, gas cylinder, gas flow will be there. That line will be connected to your column. The same way, before it is passing through, the gas will be coming, injector will be there. Injector will be injecting the sample. Along with that gas, it will be become miscible. How it will be? At a particular temperature, oven will be there. That temperature it will be attained, it will be converted to the form of a gaseous form. This both gases will enter into the column. Depends upon that elution time, or that elution time and molecular mass. Based on that, your column will be capturing each compound, and then detector will be detecting your compound. This is what the technique of a gas chromatography. The same way liquid chromatography technique, only difference is that instead of solvents you are using the gas and the compound, and before coming to the after injector, before coming to the column compartment, it will be a high temperature it will be passing through. Why it has to pass through like that? Then only it will be your analyte has to become the gaseous form. This is what a gas chromatographic technique. And here also your question will be detectors used in the gas chromatography. What all are the detectors? Remaining things, everything is same. Gas mobile phase will be a gas, and column will be a packed column. You can use wax columns in gas chromatography. Wax packed column will be wax column or DB5MS. These all are the columns you are using in a gas chromatographic technique, and your oven will be maintained at a particular temperature. Then coming to the detector, what all are the detectors you are using in a gas chromatographic instrument? You can use ECD, electron capture detector, TCD, thermal conductivity detector, or else FID, flame ionization detector, or else you can use MS, mass spectrometer. Okay, this many detectors you can use. First I am taking ECD. What is ECD? ECD is electron capture detector. What is ECD? Electron capture detector. How the working principle of an ECD? Based on what ECD is detecting your sample. ECD is the name itself, it is saying it is electron capturing. In this detector, if you are seeing, there is a beta ray radioactive source will be there. Your gas mobile phase alone, gas is passing through this detector. This beta ray radioactive source will not, it will be as such. Once your sample will be entering into this detector, what will happen? This is beta rays. Beta rays means what? Electrons, right? What will be happening? This electron capture detector will be particular, it will be specific for electronegative compounds. Okay, the compounds which is containing electronegative elements. For example, if you are seeing pentachlorophenols like this electronegative element, which is the compound which is containing electronegative element, only can be analyzed by ECD. What will happen? Along with the gas, your electronegative compound will enter into the beta ray radioactive source. It is going to the detector. What will happen? It will capture the electrons from beta ray radioactive source. This electronegative element will be capturing the electrons. Then what will happen to this radioactive source? There will be holes will be generated instead of electrons. Holes. Once these electrons will be absorbed by this electronegative element, it will be capturing the electrons. Holes will be generated. Depends on this only your ECD is working. This is the working principle of ECD. Your electrons will be captured by the electronegative element. What will happen? That background current will be deviating. Okay, holes will be generating. Your background change in background current, based on that only that detector will be detecting your sample. Okay, clear? Now it is coming to the TCD. What is TCD? TCD is thermal conductivity detector. You are detecting your thermal conductivity of your sample. We have studied this. 4 resistance will be connected together, right? 4 resistance will be conducted. Here you will be getting the signal, right? This is the signal. What will happen? This will be connected to a current. We are connected here. This is the way this detector will be. 4 resistance 1, R1, R2, R3 and R4. What will happen? In 1 R2 here, this is kept as a reference and this is kept as a sample. Okay, this only reference will be going, only gas will be flowing through this, and here gas plus your analyte, your compound, your sample will be going through this. Then what will happen? If only gas is going, you will be getting a thermal conductivity will not change. If once your sample will be entering, there is a difference in thermal conductivity will be there. Based on that you are getting the signal. That is what thermal conductivity detector. Clear? Now it is coming to the flame ionization detector. The compound is ionizable. Ionization, whichever the compound can be ionized, that can be detected by FID based on flame ionization. Once it is entering into the flame, that will be ionization will be happening. Based on that only your detector will be. MS, as I said in HPLC instrument, same principle only. Dot parent ion will be there, fragmentation will be happening, and you will be getting number of peaks, and daughter ions will, and parent ion will be split into the daughter ion, and those will give you the particular peak. And it is a quality, you know, each mass spectrum is a qualitative property for that particular compound. Molecular ion peak will be there, base peak will be there, McLafferty rearrangement peak will be there, M+1, M+2, all those peaks you will be getting the mass spectrum. Based on that mass spectrum data only you are finding out the compounds present and concentration of that compound. Okay, clear? This is what GCMS. So HPLC and gas chromatography also you will be getting the questions. What all are the detector you using? ECD detector. What type of compound you are analyzing using ECD? ECD is electronegative compound. You can analyze pentachlorophenols and all. If they give a list of that compound, which compound you will be analyzing by ECD? Electronegative elements. Based on from that list you have to select. Thermal conductivity detector is based on this principle. You know, thermal conductivity, based on the difference in thermal conductivity you will be getting the peak, and mass spectrum also. Now you know, this is clear. This all are the analytical instrument. And one more thing is there, ICP-MS, that we will be discussing in the next class. If any question about gas chromatography, liquid chromatography and UV visible spectrum, you will be able to answer. Hope you understand it well. To be continued. Thank you for watching.